Here's how to work in the front loop only. First, let me explain a few things. Here's just some regular single crochet that I've done just into the stitches below, just under the top loops as you would normally be used to working. So just under the top loops to make your stitch, whatever stitch you're making, doesn't matter. So there they are. Now, every stitch has, well, most stitches, not every, the slip stitch only has two, but every stitch has 3 loops. The front loop there, the back loop at the other side of the V, that's that little V on the top of your stitches that you can see down the line, and there's a 3rd loop at the back. Now when you're working back loop only stitches, you use the back loop, and sometimes you use the back and the 3rd loop, and you leave the front loop free for back loop only. But in this case, when you're working front loop only, you're only going to use this front loop and leave everything else alone. Now, it's not a difficult thing to do, but you can easily fall into the trap of going on autopilot and accidentally going under. So we need you to be careful. So to make a front loop only, you just come under that loop, that front loop, leave everything else alone and make your stitch. And it could be any stitch designated by your pattern under the front loop. And I'll show you what it looks like from the back in the middle. Let me just do a few more under the front loop and make a normal stitch, any stitch, whatever the pattern tells you to do. And if you roll it a bit, you'll see here that your back loops are now free, as are your 3rd loops at the back here. So we have only worked into the front loop. Now the work will curl forward a little bit. Don't worry about it. Now this technique is used in a number of ways. So just make sure you know what your designer and the pattern is asking you to do. There we go, front loop. And if you want, I'll just give myself a chain, you can do a double crochet into the front loop. Just a regular double crochet. Let's make a few of those into the front loop, like that. One more, and then I'll roll it again so you can see. All the stitches in the front loop have left. This is the back loop, that's the top of the V. See the top of the V? That's the back loop of that V, all along that nice line there. And everything else is untouched. Only the front loop has been worked into. And the taller you stitch, the more it's going to curl forward. But don't worry about that. That's obviously done for a reason. Okay? So that's how you work into the front loop only. And just for comparison, I'll work into the back loop a couple of stitches so you can see the difference completely. And I'm only using the back loop here. Sometimes for back loop only we use the back and 3rd loop, but just for demonstration I'm just going to use the back loop on its own without the 3rd loop so you can see. So here these stitches are in the front loop and you can't see it anymore, and these stitches are in the back loop and you can see the front loop. So the front loop is visible here when you do back loop only, and the back loop is visible behind when you do front loop only. Okay, big difference. That's it. Easy peasy. Have fun.